A Metro air unit goes down in the middle of a valley neighborhood.
Pilot did a good job, that's all I can say.
We talk with an eyewitness who saw the entire thing and tells us how he helped rescue the 2 officers inside.
Handing over the reins after a long career with Metro.
We're being looked upon as the model agency.
The I-Team's George Knapp sits down with Sheriff Doug Gillespie. The things he's most proud of as he walks the Las Vegas Strip one last time as sheriff on the busiest night of the year.
And the cold weather takes hold for New Year's Eve.
No, I didn't expect this in Vegas. I always thought it was warm out here.
The boost the cold snap is giving some shop owners, and we'll be tracking the storm, where it's hitting now, and what it means for fireworks.
Now, Nevada's first choice for news. This is 8 News Now at 5.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Dave Courvoisier.
And I'm Paula Francis. This New Year's Eve has been a day of breaking news, starting with a Metro helicopter crashing in the middle of a neighborhood in the valley. This happened about 1:30 this afternoon near Eastern and Bonanza.
Sources tell us, 8 News Now, the names of the pilots are Paul Lorenzo and Dave Callan. We found these pictures on a Facebook page for Lorenzo. On his page, it says, today is his 17-year anniversary as a pilot for Metro. Investigators are trying to figure out what caused the helicopter to go down, but you can see it left some pretty big marks in the road there. The 2 officers were taken to UMC, but they're expected to be okay. We talked with a neighbor who saw the whole thing.
When I came down McWilliams, it looked like he was banking it in and had to come back around and line it. I don't know how he made it so straight down that street.
Well, Richard Kelly says he was the first person on the scene and even ran up to the helicopter to try to help the officers out. By that time, though, police had arrived, told him to get away from the crash for his own safety. Luckily, no one else was hurt in the crash. Metro's air support unit has 22 helicopter pilots.
And just about an hour ago, Ken Smith was above that crash in Chopper 8 and spotted smoke from a house fire. Check out these flames coming from the home near Oakey Boulevard and Rancho Drive. Right now, it's not clear what sparked the flames. At last check, fire crews said no injuries had been reported. We'll, of course, update you on later editions of 8 News Now, as well as online, on Facebook, and on our app.
You have a lot of layers.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Layers.
And underwear.
That's how you stay warm, with layers. Plenty of tourists here for the New Year's festivities, caught off guard by the cold weather.
We met one group who bought all the warm weather gear they could find at a souvenir shop in order to stay warm as they celebrate tonight.
That's where I go for all my cold weather gear, is a souvenir shop.
Exactly.
We have live team coverage with Ted, keeping a close eye on the forecast to see if any party plans might have to change because of the weather.
But first, let's go to Michael Stevens, who's live at the link. Michael.
Dave, Paula, today we spent the afternoon talking with those tourists about how cold these temperatures are, and most of them say that they can't believe how cold it gets right here in the desert. Despite the warnings, many were still unprepared. People traveled from as far away as London and even Brazil for New Year's Eve on the Strip. They said that they were ready for a good time, but not the cold weather. One group headed down to Las Vegas Boulevard tonight said they had to stop and buy a winter coat, just like you saw those people before that, because it is just so cold out here. It's no shock to one business owner selling hats, gloves, and scarves on the street.
People come out, they want to buy new stuff. They better new glove. Oh, I forgot my scarf. You know what? Let me get the hat that goes with my jacket. Anytime after 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the people just come over and take everything away.
That's right, it's going quick. Layer up. The best advice for tonight: don't go without a coat. Local EMS tell us if you're drinking, be cautious because you can feel warmer but still be at risk for hypothermia. Again, be prepared. Even if you're planning on being inside the entire night, still wear layers just in case you get stuck on the Strip a little bit. Officials say overall, stay safe, keep warm, and have fun on this New Year's Eve. Reporting live at the link, Michael Stevens, 8 News Now.
All right, Michael, now let's continue our team coverage to see if Mother Nature could throw a wrench into tonight's celebrations.
Ted, we know the show will go on whether it rains or snows, but what about the wind?
Yeah, that's one thing we've been watching closely, Paula, and looks like right now the good news, the winds, as we forecasted, would start to just really die down by the evening. So right now, winds are down to about 11 miles per hour. Your dew point of 4, mostly cloudy skies out this hour, but the winds will decrease more as the evening moves on. So here's how it looks for the evening. If you're going to be out and about, you just saw Michael, you definitely need to bundle up because temperatures are going to be cold. 7 p.m. We're talking anywhere from 10 to 5 miles per hour, 34 degrees. 10 p.m. will definitely be less than 10 miles per hour, 32 degrees. And by midnight should be light winds, hopefully. 30 degrees will be our temperature at midnight. That'll be below the freezing mark. And because at 30 at midnight, that's not quite our low yet. We're going to drop even more by 6 a.m. And that's the reason why we have a weather alert. Hard freeze warnings have been issued all across the valley in these areas shaded in purple until 8 a.m. on Friday because temperatures are definitely going to drop into the 20s. How cold is it going to get? I'll let you know coming up in your full forecast in just a couple minutes. We'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Ted. And if you haven't staked out a place along Las Vegas Strip yet, you might have trouble making your way there.
Ken Smith is up in Chopper 8 with the many different closures along and around the Strip where crews are making way for hundreds of thousands of partiers. Ken.
Can you imagine 340,000 people down here? I'll tell you what, that is going to be a record if those numbers hold up for tonight. Right now, we're looking here live at I-15 right at Spring Mountain, and all these ramps are supposed to shut down right about now, especially the ones here at Spring Mountain, also at Flamingo, and also at Tropicana. All the ramps that go from either I-15 to eastbound side of any of those highways. You can see that some of the NDOT crews are down here as we speak. They're getting ready and they're positioning to start shutting down these ramps. They've yet to do so, so those of you that are already out and about, you got a few more minutes to get out here, but take a look at this. Look at some of these delays here along Frank Sinatra. This is some of these folks kind of snaking their way underneath Flamingo, trying to find that alternate route, already planning ahead for Las Vegas Boulevard. Now, Las Vegas Boulevard itself will be completely shut down by about 6 o'clock, and it'll be opened up to pedestrian traffic at about 6:30 tonight. And to top things off, here we go. Here's some of the big delays here right at Tropicana and Koval Lane, starting to back up all the way from Paradise, heading to Koval Lane. So traffic is not going to be Paradise. The weather is exactly not going to be Paradise, but the fireworks, assuming Ted is right, and I think he will be, that's going to be Paradise tonight starting at midnight. And we're going to have our live show here, including Chopper 8 up and overhead tonight starting at 10 o'clock. Reporting live over the Strip, I'm Ken Smith, 8 News Now.
Thanks, Ken. As you can imagine, a lot of work goes into coordinating all the logistics to get the Strip ready for the New Year's Eve celebration. 8 News Now reporter Patrick Walker is live outside Caesars Palace. He has a look at some of the numbers. Patrick.
Well, Paula, when you throw a party for 350,000 people, you can imagine everything is done on a large scale. Let me give you an idea of some of those numbers so you can get an idea of what we're talking about. Casinos rent miles of fences to keep people where they're supposed to be. Just outside the Bellagio, workers were working on their second 14-hour day, rushing to get this truckload of fence out and into place. Enough fence to stretch a quarter mile. Clark County is setting up 4,000 pedestrian barricades. That's nearly 6 miles worth. More than 70 porta potties by our count have been set up on both ends of the Strip. Now, all of this takes 6 months of planning, and county leaders will be ready tonight to help make sure it all comes together, hopefully without a hitch.
We have, as part of our Emergency Operations Center, which is located downtown at the Government Center, our EOC, which handles about 25 different agencies that coordinate together.
25 agencies that will all be there together, plus numerous other partners. With all of the people packing on to Las Vegas Boulevard, emergency managers know it will be a busy night. They just hope it will be somewhat controlled chaos as people ring in the new year. And you can't forget about all of the cleanup that has to happen when all of this is over. County officials say that all of that will be done, get this, by 3 o'clock in the morning. That's a little less than 3 hours after this all wraps up. Reporting live, I'm Patrick Walker, 8 News Now.
Thanks, Patrick. It's incredible how fast they get out, those street cleaners. And remember, if you don't want to battle the crowds, just stay at home and watch 8 News Now as we get fired up for 2015, starting at 10 p.m. We'll also show the entire fireworks show from multiple locations at midnight. So stay warm and safe, stay home, and watch 8 News Now.
A hit-and-run suspect headed for trial. What a judge had to say to Galina Kalova, and what's next for her after police say she hit and killed a grandfather walking his young granddaughter. And Sheriff Doug Gillespie says goodbye. The final duty he performs as the head of Metro Police Department, and what he told the team's George Knapp is the toughest thing he came across in his decades with the force.
This portion of 8 News Now is brought to you by Bryan Head Resort.
A woman accused of hitting and killing a Las Vegas grandfather and then taking off from the scene was in court today.
The suspect, Galina Kolova, stayed quiet during the hearing, but her attorney made a whole lot of noise, asking the judge to throw out the case.
8 News Now reporter Mauricio Marin joins us now with some of the heated exchange between Kolova's attorney and the judge.
Good evening. That's right. You might recall the deadly hit and run happened just days before Thanksgiving. At one point during court today, the judge stopped Kolova's attorney and asked him to back off witnesses on the stand.
One more time. Ask him, and that's it.
I asked the question. I'm waiting for an answer now.
Okay.
The judge got tough with Kolova's attorney today after he repeatedly kept asking witnesses the same question 5 or 6 times. Kolova's attorney says he kept on asking because the witnesses didn't provide any testimony proving his client knew that she hit a person and therefore shouldn't be charged with leaving the scene of an accident without helping a person. Now, one witness says the deadly crash happened so quickly right in front of her.
I saw a lot of dirt and dust, and then I realized, oh my gosh, a gentleman was hit.
What did you do after you saw that?
I immediately pulled over and tried to assist the gentleman.
Now, after hearing testimony from several people, the judge ruled the case can move forward to 8th District Court, where Kolova is expected to plead not guilty. Now, Kolova is still in jail after a judge raised her bail to $100,000 earlier this month. She's scheduled to be back in court in about 2 weeks. Now, Kolova is facing 1 felony charge of leaving the scene of an accident. Her attorney says the judge should have dismissed the case against her, even though she turned herself in. We'll have more on that coming up at 6 o'clock.
All right, Mauricio.
Thanks. We've reached the end of 2014, and it was a real money-saving year for drivers. We dig into just how low the price of gasoline dropped this year and how long it's been since it peaked at more than $4 a gallon.
Being the top lawman in Las Vegas, one of the toughest jobs in the country. Just ask anyone who's ever served as sheriff of Clark County.
Tonight, 2-term Sheriff Doug Gillespie is taking a final walk along the Strip, saying goodbye to the men and women of Metro as his 34-year career comes to a close. In all those years, Gillespie never had to fire his weapon.
That's interesting. Colleagues say the one thing they'll remember about him is his selflessness and willingness to take one for the team. The sheriff sat down with the I-Team's George Knapp to look back on a stellar career.
Was there a point when you, after you had been elected the first time, when you're thinking to yourself, what have I done here? What have I done?
Well, it was a few months. I don't even think it was a few months. I called Bill Young and I said, I need to meet with you. And he looked at me and I looked at him and I said, I had no idea. And he just sort of chuckled and he said, I told you.
Doug Gillespie knew going in that being sheriff was a tough job, but nothing could have fully prepared him for the 24/7 never-ending roller coaster of crises, emergencies, and problems. Every criminal, con man, and crazy in the country seems to end up in Las Vegas at some point. Gillespie is proudest of how Metro responded to the darkest moments of his 2 terms.
I'm very proud of the way we handled the downturn in the economy and the level of service that we continue to provide to this community. I'm very proud of the way my organization has handled losing 7 officers in the line of duty. You know, I'm very proud of the way that we've handled a very emotional aspect of what it is that we do on a regular basis, and that's our use of force, and particularly the focus on our deadly force. I think what you're seeing across the nation now, we're being looked upon as the model agency.
A national debate now rages about cops' race and use of force, issues already familiar to Gillespie. During his watch, police shootings of Trayvon Cole and Stanley Gibson sparked outrage, but also led to changes in how officers' actions are evaluated, ultimately leading to the use of full body cameras, developments that were not popular with the police officers' union, but which Gillespie supported. He had to cut Metro's budget to the bone because of the recession, but still maintained a high level of service, in part by opposing raises for officers. The deaths of 3 officers in high-speed chases prompted drastic changes to police pursuit policies. 3 more officers died in the span of a year, including 2 gunned down while they were eating lunch.
Those faces, you see those faces?
Yeah, you do. And I think in some respects, people don't understand internally and externally at times what that means to you. You'd love to be everywhere. You'd love to be that person that can change those things, but you can't. And I'll say to you as well as to them that are watching them, I'll never forget them as long as I live, and I'll never forget the sacrifice that their loved one has made.
Colleagues say Gillespie often starts his day at 4 in the morning and is usually the last person to leave the office. He's often put ego aside for the good of his agency, repeatedly appearing before elected officials to plead for more officers, requests that were repeatedly turned down, or enduring the embarrassment of being on a stage with rancher Cliven Bundy. But he did it because he felt it offered the best chance of avoiding a bloody showdown at Bunkerville. The profession itself has changed during his 2 terms. Police across the country became more militarized as they assumed a much greater role in homeland security functions. Gillespie supported training known as MACTAC in order to prepare Las Vegas for the kind of armed assault that caused chaos in Mumbai. If there's one thing that keeps him awake at night, it's
that lone individual that nobody really knows about, that wants to go out in a blaze of glory like we saw in New York and recently with the killing of the 2 police officers.
When Gillespie was honored as the National Sheriff of the Year, he barely mentioned it here at home. Asked what he liked least about the job, it's the politics, especially asking for money for campaigns. He's ready to drive off into the sunset, but says he loved this job.
I really believe this as I grew up in the organization, what a fine police department this was and what a great community this was to police in from a support standpoint. You know, I just want to thank the Las Vegas community for the support they've provided me over the last 8 years. I won't ever forget it.
George Knapp, 8 News Now.
The sheriff says he plans to travel the country with his wife for a while and has every intention of staying retired.
He also told us that he's already had the talk with his successor, Joe Lombardo, about how tough that job is. Okay, so snow never really came, did it? We got a few flurries, though, didn't we?
Yeah, we got some flurries. Yeah, we had some spots that actually got a light dusting. Yeah. Not in my neighborhood, though. I knew that wasn't going to happen, right? It looks like outside right now, guys, it's cold. It's going to be that way for tonight. We've got a hard freeze warning we're going to talk about in just a second. Let's talk about some snow totals, though, because we did get a trace reported out at McCarran. Laughlin picked up a ½ an inch. That tells you the snow levels dropped big time overnight. Searchlight picked up an inch of snow. 40 degrees outside right now, mostly cloudy skies. Winds still up there about 11, but they're nowhere near as breezy as earlier today. Your dew point at 4 degrees. That shows me how dry it is in the lower levels of the atmosphere, so any chance of any snowflake popping up or rainfall probably not going to happen. 40 degrees for Sunrise Mountain right now. Summerlin, you're already at 36, 38 Blue Diamond, 37 St. Rose Parkway, 37 for Laughlin, Boulder City 36, Prump 42, and Prim currently at 38 degrees. Death Valley still just under 60 degrees at this hour. 43 right now, or our high for today. We didn't reach up in the 50s, that's for sure. 34 degrees is what we dropped to for our morning temperature. That was our overnight low. Now that low just to the south of us. Yes, we're getting some reflectivity here, showing some showers and even some snow out there, but that dew point I pinpointed out to you is so dry that this is evaporating before it is reaching the ground. We do have that hard freeze warning that goes into effect for tonight all the way through Friday, so it's a couple of days of this. These areas here shaded in purple means temperatures are going to be sub-freezing, definitely in the 20s by the morning hours. An hour-by-hour forecast now as we plan your evening into tomorrow. 7 p.m., mostly clouds, 35. Midnight, it's going to be a cold one, 30 degrees at midnight. 6 a.m., very cold. That'll be our morning temperature, 27 degrees up in Mount Charleston, only in the teens. By noontime, 39 degrees. It'll be sunnier tomorrow, but it'll be a little on the chilly side. 42 degrees for a high tomorrow, mainly sunny. We will be staying chilly, like we said, below average. 7-day forecast shows temperatures will warm up slightly to the 50s, low 60s by next week. At this point, Dave, it looks like those fireworks should be able to go off.
Great, Ted. Thank you. And air quality advisories in effect tonight thanks to the New Year's Eve celebrations along the Strip. So with all those fireworks shooting off on top of the hotels, that smoke will likely linger for a while. So if you have breathing problems, I want to stay inside until all that clears out of the valley. And with the cold temperatures, many in the valley don't have a home to keep them warm. So if you or someone you know needs a place to escape the frigid temperatures, there are several warming stations open across the valley. Just go to 8newsnow.com or use our app and type in the keywords warming stations. You'll be able to find the closest one to you so you or someone you know in need can escape the cold.
Along with the fireworks and celebrations on the Strip, you'll also hear plenty of wedding bells. We go inside a local chapel to see how they're preparing for the onslaught of New Year's newlyweds.
Coming up, the recovery effort for AirAsia Flight 8501 is now a race against time. We report from Indonesia with the latest. Plus, if you celebrate with bourbon, beware. It may not come from where you think it does. Coming up on the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley.
Now, Nevada's first choice for news. This is 8 News Now at 5.
With the cold weather and the threat of snow, many people filled up their cars in case they needed to get around in the icy weather. Luckily, they were greeted with low prices. Gas Buddy, a website that lets people post gas prices all around town, released its year in review. As you know, prices were down in 2014. Right now, the average price of a gallon of gas is $2.25 across the country. That's down $1.06 from last year's average of $3.31. Here in Las Vegas, the average price is $2.46 a gallon, but some places are selling for as low as $2.06. This is definitely a lot better than 2008, when the website recorded its highest average of $4.27 a gallon in June of that year. Leaving trash behind.
Coming up tonight at 6, residents of Lee Canyon say people are trespassing and trashing their property. What might be fueling the problem? That's coming up tonight at 6. Wedding bells are ringing tonight and will continue to ring through the new year.
That's right. We stopped by the Little White Wedding Chapel today on Las Vegas Boulevard. People were already getting excited to tie the knot when couple traveled all the way from Wales to make things official.
There's going to be a multi-million-dollar fireworks display tonight, so when else to get married?
Yeah.
We don't have to pay for the fireworks now.
You're going to. That's smart. The owner of the chapel says this year isn't much different from years past because there are always the couples who want to marry before the stroke of midnight and others who want to be among the first to marry in the new year.
All the way from Wales. All right, well, thanks for joining us today at 5.
You can always catch our top stories on our 8 News Now podcast on iTunes. The CBS Evening News is next, and we'll be back at 6.